Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our latest episode on the Growth Playbook with myself, Kim Clark, and co-host Alan Bolio, aka very well-known economist, former president at ITR Economics. Today's episode, we are carrying on from last week, talking about the U.S. dollar impact on business, Alan's expectations for the future of the US dollar, and other items that he has on his list to cover with us today. Very excited to go through it all. We're kicking off, picking up from where we left off from last week, and really just want to touch on a pricing strategy. Last week we talked about a weakening US dollar, potential for that to continue, risks to the strength of the US dollar. And so we're just going to take a couple of minutes to talk pricing strategy. So, Dad, you had mentioned many times over the years, you've talked with people about good, better, best, and to make sure that your good is still better than somebody else's good and or even their best. So let's, if you don't mind, let's dive into that for a few minutes to give some people some ideas of what we mean by that, and then we can dive into the rest of the topics for today.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. And like you, Kim, it's always been about value proposition when you talk to people. You and I are on the same page with that right down the line. And then I would also add, but when periods of more significant inflation, really wealthy will buy the best. But there's a group of people that want to buy the best or even the better, but they can't afford it anymore, so they buy the good. And you have to make sure that your good has a nice marketplace competitive advantage, which our friend Janie Smith is all about. And I know that in your work, you help firms enunciate that and make it clear why my good is better than their good. So that even in a tight economic times, I'm selling more widgets because my widgets are better and I can prove it. And if you have that statement you're going to get a little more price than the next one. And you're going to find that you're going to sell widgets and life is pretty good. But you got to be prepared for that. You can't just wake up one day and go, oh yeah, what is it we're supposed to say?
It takes a long time to have it resonate with your audience as well. Just if you launch a perception campaign and run it once and it's a one and done thing, then that's not going to stick or hold either. It really needs to become a part of the fabric of the foundation of your business, that everyone is able to articulate the value you're providing as it compares in the marketplace, from your sales team to your messaging that your marketing team's putting out there to the executives who are making decisions of what type of pricing strategies and what products to offer in the marketplace. It needs to be grounded in that business foundation and part of just the fabric.
Yeah, you're right. And what you and I have learned over the years is this: when C-suite or others in the company get tired of hearing it and saying it, there's a tendency to want to change it. But that's exactly the wrong time, because that's just when everybody that around you is beginning to have it sink in. You've been saying it so much you think it's old, but others, light bulbs are still going on, and people, it just becomes part of the fabric of who we are. So we keep saying it. Um, and that's marketing, that's business intelligence, that's, competitive advantages. It's everything as we go forward. Have the ability to stick to the message for as long as it's true. You may need to tweak it. You may need to change the color a little so it doesn't always look vanilla, but underneath it all, you got to keep with the plan. One of the things I didn't mention last week, Kim, was that, this value thing is interesting because we're a fiat currency, and most nations are. It's not backed by gold anymore. It hasn't been backed by gold in a very long, long time. So it's based upon feelings. It's based upon mathematical models and people's perceptions. And what a different world we're in now compared to the days of old. And when you hear somebody say, well, we should go back to the gold standard, understand you're talking to somebody who's on that airplane I was talking about last week who has no idea what they're talking about. So just ignore them and understand that can't happen. So
Noted and will do.
that's, that's, and I will, go so far as to say there's some very nice people on the plane, but there are some very nice people who don't know what they're talking about. So, it's just just the way that life is. It's not that they're not nice people. They've just been misinformed.
Right. As a lot
And
of people have. That's why we keep putting on these shows, and other providers that are looking at data from an unbiased view do as well. So
Yeah,
try to help inform people.
right. Exactly. All right, let's talk about BRIC for a minute, if you don't mind. BRIC. I used to get that question just about every presentation, so let's bring it up here. Brazil, Russia, India, China. As a economic entity, could they have a currency that they come up with that replaces the dollar? Because if the dollar is replaced as a reserve currency, that's just going to be a slide of the dollar, and everything that we talked about last week happens and happens in a large way. And I always maintained absolutely not. It's not possible. And there are some reasons for that. It's not patriotism alone. I am very patriotic, but it's not a patriotism thing. Uh, it's Russia's in decline, China's in decline. Brazil is, well, their motto has been the next great nation, always has been, always will be. I mean, it's a good nation, good, lots of potential, poor infrastructure, lots of minerals. There's stuff going on in Brazil that makes them always on the cusp of being a great nation. So you have two in decline, one that's on the cusp, and then there's India, which is growing, but India has its own set of problems. It'll grow, it'll overcome, it'll become more and more important because the population now has surpassed that of China. There's more manufacturing and things going on. Uh, One of the things that people forget about India is that to think of India and think in terms of a homogeneous thing or group, nation, is sort of like saying California represents all of the United States, or Alabama represents all the United States. There's so many pockets of differences around, and different laws and different flavors, and in their case, different religions and stuff that makes things very different. So India is a big country with lots of diversity, and some parts can do very well, and others will lag behind, which creates its own sense of I hope this goes the way I think it will, as opposed to I know where the US is and all that kind of stuff. It's a great nation, don't get me wrong, and it'll do great things going forward, but it's not like it's we're here to replace the United States at the moment kind of nation. And as I said, the other two are in decline. So I think their ability to replace the US is zero. Uh, that's not to say that China hasn't forced Brazil into trading in doing business in Chinese RMBs because they have, but that's because Brazil needs the business. So China said, well, we're only going to deal in RMBs, not US dollars. And it's like, all right, go ahead, big deal. Um, but it's not worldwide. And so that worry, which is a big reason why the dollar would weaken if the BRIC nations prevailed, I don't think it's there. And as China's problems grows, as Russia's problems are evident to the world now and continue to grow, I don't think we're going to see any risk there.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
Probably very, very nice people, but not a place where you want to do your business with other than in dollars. Okay, let's talk about money supply. The Federal Reserve Board has dual mandates, and they have two tools. One tool is interest rate, and everybody knows about that. And everybody that has the computer or radio, listens to the news, reads the news, whatever it happens to be, knows that President Trump was trying to find a way to fire Jerome Powell, and he's putting pressure on the Fed and all that kind of stuff. Um, wow, that's inherently dangerous for a number of reasons. The Fed is supposed to be politically neutral and independent on purpose, and all of a sudden, if a president can come in, fire somebody he doesn't like, and appoint a political lackey, now the independence of the Fed is gone, and then there's no confidence. It's serving at the whim of the president means there's no confidence now in what interest rates are going to do. Is it reasonable or just what he wants? Is it or she? Is it going to be an expansion of the money supply or not at the direction of the White House? That's a horrible, horrible situation because we know what interest rates do. You raise interest rates, you slow down the economy. You lower interest rates, you boost the economy. But people don't talk about the money supply. Let's go into that for just a minute. The money supply is M2 deflated is what we used at ITR, and I think it's still the best measure. And ITR talks about it, so you go to their website and learn more about it. But M2D is how much money is out there. Now, the more money that's in circulation, and I don't mean literally in our wallets, but I mean in our savings accounts, bank accounts, business accounts, and all the rest of that, the more business that can go on. And there's more money in the banks for them to lend. It's as simple as that. The Fed says you don't have to leave as much on deposit with us, so you can have it in your bank so that you can lend it to businesses and to people. When they want to tighten up on the money supply, they go, we're going to increase how much you have to deposit with us at the Fed, so you have less money to lend out for homes and for cars and for all that kind of stuff, which slows down the economy. It's a tremendous tool, and it's something that they do use. Generally speaking, the money supply has been expanding, and then when we hit COVID, they really shut up the money supply like there's no tomorrow. I mean, just like a Saturn V rocket. It was just amazing. And Jerome Powell said, this is a quote I used to like to use. He said, "We know we're creating inflation. We'll deal with that later." So they know what they were doing. They're not stupid people by any means, but they know that was their way of trying to save the economy, and in large measure, it worked. Then we had inflation, and they dropped the money supply. I mean, just boom. It was down below year ago levels. It was an incredible decline, like that Saturn V all of a sudden plummeting to Earth. And the impact was the economy felt all that pain, slower growth, and all the rest of that. And we're still kind of shrugging that off and trying to get past it. So they created inflation that has lingered, and they took away the money supply to help with the growth. They kind of got us into a catch-22. They're back to expanding the money supply. So if the president wants an expanding economy, they are doing something. They're putting more money out there for businesses and for individuals to borrow, consume, and use as we go forward. Um, and that's good news for the economy as we go forward. So your clients, Kim, if they want to know what's a reason I should be looking forward to more sales, spending money on getting the message out and expanding and all the rest of that, you can say, watch the money supply. Because the money supply is the hidden tool that people don't pay attention to. And while they're fighting over here over interest rates, over here you can actually see what's going on. Money supply is going up, it's a good thing. Money supply is going down, it's squeezing the economy. Pretty simple. Now, when you do too much of this, like we did in COVID with the money supply, it does cause inflation. So that's the other thing your clients should watch is how much money is going in there. Because if it's a weakening dollar and a money supply expanding, all of a sudden we find ourselves in a situation where we're in inflation mode again, and with everything that we've discussed that goes with it. I can't remember if we've discussed stagflation already or not. Stagflation is when you have a stagnant economy with inflation. We haven't seen that in decades, but it's pretty horrible because the Fed is stuck between a rock and a hard place. They want to spur the economy, lower interest rates, and boost the money supply so the economy can grow. But if they do that, they're going to make inflation worse. And if they try to deal with inflation, they're going to take this economy and they're going to put it into recession. Now, if they look at their mandate is not to keep us out of recession. So stagflation creates a period where it's tough for people who are earning a living. Most of us get a paycheck, doesn't go up all that much while inflation's going up faster, and the company can't give us raises because they're not able to raise prices because of weak demand for whatever goods or service we're providing. So you get this kind of a life is painful. And all the Fed can really do is try to beat inflation, which pushes us into recession, which could be 2027, certainly could easily be 2030, which used to seem like so far away, but it's not anymore.
Nope.
Certainly not.
Halfway through 25.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? So all of which is to say there is something that people can watch, and you just go to the St. Louis Fed or go to online to FRB money supply or M2 money supply, and you'll find charts and you'll see what's going on, and you just look at it and know that when it's going up, it's good, positive news for the economy, but tends towards inflation. When it's going down, the economy is not going to do anything except face slower growth or contraction. Uh, Easy measure for people to watch, and
I
yet
like it.
extremely helpful. Yeah. And when that happens, your clients have more ease in borrowing, less ease in borrowing. They're going to face lines of credit that are tightening. They're going to face tighter covenants. So it becomes more of a financial issue than a straight up marketing issue. Uh, but at the same time, if I'm that company and all this is going on, I can have price stability. So I can say in a period of inflation, we haven't raised our prices in a year, and we're still here for you. And that type of messaging can go a long way with people too. Uh, it's absolutely amazing. I think the potential for messaging, I'm here to help you in a period of economic difficulty. You're the expert. It just seems to me that that resonates well
Oh,
with
100%. Yeah, if people are feeling stressed, anxious, any of those trigger words, negative emotion of any kind, and you have that in your thought as you are making decisions in your business and then communicating that transparently and clearly out into the marketplace, I mean, that would 100% resonate with the audience.
good,
It
because not
creates that.
everybody can sell Tito's.
They can give me a call.
But it does allow you to be that good neighbor. Remember, oh gosh, Kim, this was years ago. Brian and I, he and I were still doing the Visage speaking at the time, so that's how long ago it was. And for those that don't know Visage, it's a CEO peer group, very large one, global, lots of members. We both have lots of friends in the Visage community, you and I, and
Yeah.
like them a lot. Uh, Among the reasons why those CEOs, who are mostly entrepreneurs, were doing what they were doing is so that they could help their community. That was
Mm.
one of the top five reasons five most popular answers. I forget which one that was, three, two, somewhere in through there, but so they could help their community. And this, what we're talking about, that messaging you help them with is a way to fulfill one of their desires
Mhm.
while helping their community. And I think it's cool. I think it gives business a heart. So when I run into that person on the airplane who thinks all businesses are bad, I just want to open that exit door and
I like how you put that though. It gives businesses a heart. I'm gonna have to use that when I'm talking with people. I've been putting it. People like to do business with people, not just a faceless machine. This is my brand. This is my product. This is my solution. Whatever the case may be, they like to know that they agree with the people behind it also, and the mission and the purpose.
yeah, that's right. And you're making my life better, even if it's a subtle message. Car companies do it all the time. You always see happy people driving their cars around and that sort of stuff. So, the message being, if you buy my Subaru, then you're going to be a happy person, you know. But the messaging we're talking about is a little more direct than that. You buy my Subaru because it will last longer and is more affordable on an annual basis than, most cars on the road, whatever the message might be.
Yeah, and I'm finding, and I'm curious your thoughts on this if you're seeing it as well. I've been seeing a lot more with the generations below the boomers, that relatability and community purpose being of greater emphasis when engaging with a new solutions provider, or a new company. It seems to me that it's of even more importance than it had been in the past.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And when you're looking to hire people, you have to understand that people you're hiring now, they want to do well, but they also want to do good. And those are two very different words, and you have to be ready to explain both of those. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, I used to make it a bit of a joke. I can say in any interview, use the word sustainability three times. It doesn't matter context, just use the word. We've been around since, 19, well, I forget, 1948, sustainable, you know. My brother and I are getting old, sustainable, just, but it's very true. They want to know that when they go to work or buy the product, they're making the world a better place. They want to
Yes.
know that they are contributing to good.
Yes. Which is why I think that's part of the reason why Instagram has been on the rise consistently for actual B2B marketing, which previously it had been thought of a more B2C platform, but it is steadily becoming a top contender with even B2B work, but it's more based on the person. It's more personal stories that are being shared and such. And so I'm getting to know the person, not just the product.
Yeah, exactly so. And we know that from our work together over the years, personal relationships are extremely important. Um, it's easy to stop doing business with a company. It's harder to stop doing business with somebody you like. So,
Yeah. That was one of the account executives at ITR. She had said, I want people to feel like they're breaking up with me if we end an engagement together. But it's true. It's a relationship, not a transaction.
yeah.
And it
All
seems
right.
that's much more important to the younger generation. But yes, we've gotten off track here. So we still had another thing to go over.
Yes, but I mean, we've been in happy land, so I'm going to take us back. Uh,
Perfect. Enough with the smiles. Time to go back to the frowns.
that's right. That's right. And that is the dollar again. So we started with the dollar. Let's end with the dollar.
Love
Uh,
it.
the second largest holder of our bonds, foreign holder of U.S. bonds, is China, right a smidgen behind Japan, who's a close ally. China has the power to cause an incredible financial disruption in the United States. At the same time, it would cause incredible financial disruption in China and in the world. But I maintain, and I don't think I'm the only one by any means, that China would certainly risk, all right, so 2, 4 years of a lot of pain. They think in terms of 50 years, 100 years, not 4 quarters like we do. So what they could do is they could just dump treasuries, US treasuries into the global market. And it's like, think of any commodity, think of it as sugar. All of a sudden, this huge supply of sugar comes into the world market. What happens to the price of the sugar? Goes down.
Drop. Yeah.
Drop. So all of a sudden I have these US treasuries, which I just plow into the marketplace. So over here, the value is going down on treasuries, so I can buy them cheaper because there's so many of them. Now the US is over here trying to sell its debt, and we can't because you can buy them so much cheaper over here. So we have to lower our price, as it were, which means we raise the yield, which costs us more, and all of a sudden we're in a bidding competition essentially against ourselves because it's US treasuries that are being sold. And the dollar can easily take a tremendous beating and come near collapse in that type of scenario. Now, they're the second largest foreign holder, so they're not a majority holder. So when somebody says China owns most of our debt, that's not true, but they own enough of our debt because we've seen it for other nations. Somebody starts selling those, and other people go, I got to get rid of mine while they still have some value. So you just start an avalanche, and next thing you know, nobody wants to be holding them little puppies. And we would have to buy them, which increases our debt, and or we're printing lots of money, which is not literal printing, but all of a sudden we got a real mess on our hands because we are a nation that spends more money than we make at the governmental levels, states and federal, and we've allowed ourselves to be put into this position where they can come from the left or the right. We'll never see them coming until it's too late and they dump it. And during the Great Recession, I had a president of the Federal Home Loan Bank, one of them, which I had the privilege of working with them, say the three scariest days of his career were when at the Federal Home Loan Bank is the second largest seller of treasuries. He said 3 days the Chinese did not show up at our window. He said he said to himself, if this continues, it's game over. We're done. So I mean, this is not just an economist's opinion. This is real stuff that we have given them the power over us. And you'll hear some people say, well, we'll just cancel some of the debt. Well, we're a huge debtor nation. You can't just cancel some of the debt. You cancel it to China and say, well, we don't owe you that money anymore. Who's going to invest in you the next day? You
Right.
know? So cannot just do that. We can forgive ourselves our own debt. Well, that's not going to help other people feel better about investing in us. Either you're honorable or you're not when it comes to your debt. Something to watch for, because people talk in terms of war with China. It doesn't have to start with a bomb. It can start with a bond instead of a bomb. All right,
Yeah.
I've done my best to end this on a cheery note. So
All right, so jumping on that, you have termed that China's secret weapon. That's what you had said to me once when we were talking. This is China's secret weapon. I know in a future episode, you and I are working right now to make it so that way our next episode is jumping from US dollar, China's secret weapon, and talking about something that I really, admittedly, do not know nearly enough to contribute in the conversation, and having a couple of subject matter experts join us for a panel to talk Bitcoin.
yep.
And so that'll be an interesting episode where I will be the layman on the conversation and listen to the three very different perspectives on the subject. I know you have a very specific perspective on it, and the two other guests that we're still reaching out to have join us. We've locked one of them in so far, coming in, one being very pro Bitcoin for varying reasons, and the other one taking a more, I would say, balanced approach. I don't know if you would agree with that being the right word for that, a balanced approach to it. And so it should be a very interesting panel jumping into the Bitcoin conversation.
I'm really looking forward to it, and I respect the other panelists. So I mean, it's not one of those things where we're going to have to come to blows over this, and it's not like house meeting or congressional meeting or something like that where party lines are drawn and all that stuff. We're going to have a reasoned discussion, and I think what we're going to end with is a lot of people going, "Huh, I didn't realize the risks that were involved, uh, but that's not enough to stop me." I think that's where a lot of people are going to end. But knowing how it looks from 360 degrees allows you to make an intelligent decision and realize what those risks are.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it. So that will be our next episode. Very exciting. Any ending thoughts you want to share with our audience before we part ways for today, Dad?
Maybe, Kim, we could come up with a Kim Allen Bitcoin so that people can.
I like it. It rolls right off the tongue, namely because of the actor Tim Allen. It just popped right into my head when you said Kim Allen.
My parting comments on the dollar is I know I presented some bleak stuff because I like people to be aware, and that's why I started with the positives. It's not all falling apart, but pay attention. Pay attention to the cracks in the foundation. Pay attention to what the bond market is saying. Pay attention to what other people are saying and their concerns, and weigh it in your own mind. There's no reason to be surprised by any of this. It only surprises people who are not paying attention. And if you're prepared, you can protect.
I love that. I love that. And we specifically named resources for all those listening in if you don't have them readily available. Bellwether Wealth, Clark, very close, I would consider friend of the family for a long time now. Janie Smith, get your competitive advantages straightened out. Hugely important as we're going through the next 10 so years. So reach out to her at Smart Advantage, and reach out to us if you want any direct introductions. And then also, as you mentioned, myself, my work with the clients at V2A Marketing and helping people really build that solid foundation, taking that 360 view of everything that's going on and creating a sustainable business through the rest of this decade. So we're all here to help and work together and continue on making businesses stronger.
Yes, and I would add a reliable and ask for the reliability of an exchange rate forecast. Lots of sources for that. Of course, I know how we did at ITR, proud of our forecasting there. Uh, just don't be afraid to ask the question, how accurate has this been? And when you find one that you're comfortable with, boy, that's powerful.
Agreed. Agree. Well, this has been fun as always. And until next time, when we discuss Bitcoin.
Excellent. All right. This is it from Kim Allen.
Bye.
Bye.